This is IBM Museum. In previous videos I've had where I had that salvage lot of 3488 terminals I went through and cleaned and glued together, got in better shape. And then also another video of that 3477 info window with the blown CRT that I talked about taking the logic board of one of those 3488 terminals, putting into the logic assembly below the CRT and kind of making a Frankenstein terminal, as it were, with an LCD screen eventually. And I was mid-process for that when I saw a viewer comment. And this is a little bit intriguing it just started me wondering about the possibilities, because at the end of the comment is this: I have a 3488-V which gives no display and just beeps. I haven't spent any time troubleshooting it yet. And I responded, I should pull up my parallel port postcode reader to see if IBM incorporated that aspect into the terminals with a parallel port, seeing how other aspects were duplicated from PCs. So behind me, I've got this layout where I went through and connected up I had to put the logic board for the 3488 back into where it had the power supply and a good place to seat it in. But I have one of these parallel port postcode readers on this, because when IBM went through and they are probably doing the x86 CPU side for just the development process, but this is that NEC V20 that's on the 3488. The 3489 terminal has a 286 CPU that's in there, and there's also even the older terminals like the 3197 that has an 8088 CPU that's at 8 megahertz that's on that, and that also does have the parallel port. It seems like whenever there was that shift to the Intel, the x86, because there were 8085 CPUs on earlier terminals, of course, that didn't have the parallel port, but they started including the parallel port on those units when they did that shift as well. And it just got me thinking. I go through and I recommend these boards to the people that have the IBM PS2s, because all the PS2 models support having this unit. And it just gives a little bit of codes as the machine starts up, is powered up, even before you get a display, to kind of show, at least in a lot of instances, whether the planar is alive at all. That, the CPU is functioning, it's going through the codes. And the theory is if it stops on a particular code, then that has a reference where you can look up that code and kind of find out what's going wrong with the system. Now, I did pick up a number of these recently. I mean, it's been a couple months, but they come with a little booklet. As you can see here, I've got like 4 books. I think there was 3 of these in the batch I ordered. These are about $10 USD, and I'll go through and link in an unaffiliated eBay auction where you can pick these up and get them for this troubleshooting process, because we've got everything connected. I am using the PS2 mouse connection to power the postcode reader in this case, but if you're not comfortable with that, or have a model that doesn't have the PS2 mouse connection, you can use the USB power and have if you want the mouse connected or whatever else. For that diagnostic level, you typically don't have to have the mouse in there connected. And this just vampires off the power. It doesn't have any data that plays back to the system. Now, of course, in this instance with the 3488 and the 3489, if you have that top cover, of course, it goes through and it kind of would mask off being able to view these connections or to see the codes, if they were output from this. So let's just go through. It's powered up. And it is a little bit of a challenge to see with being off angle for the camcorder. But it goes through and it's cycling through codes. Now, granted that this is probably a more limited range of the so-called postcodes, and there's not really a reference for those to look up what they have. But the point is, these have effectively a BIOS to them that it can be developed now for looking at that code and determining what each one of those steps is in the code where it halts, since it's simple x86 code. So boom, mind blown. I mean, this is just amazing that the parallel port models of the later IBM terminals seem to support this postcode. And I'll have to figure out how far back this goes, if like the 3497 has this or not. That's just a little bit of experimentation, and also going through, and I'll have to find code listings for that, of course, so that can be analyzed to give an indication where those particular steps are for each one of the codes that's presented. But this is real. It's amazing to me. It doesn't really, if you have the parallel port on the unit, it really doesn't take too much code anyway to output this stuff, the diagnostic information to the parallel port. So it makes sense that IBM would do this. But it's just one more helpful aid that we can use in diagnosing what is going wrong, or what the unit is not doing in this case, if you don't have a display and you want to troubleshoot these a little bit more. So kind of neat, I think. And if you enjoy this content, click on that like button, please. As always, subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Recommend this to your friends so we can have more subscribers. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.